Chapter 169 to 171. On the outskirts of Angel Island, a small boat was quietly coming towards the shore. This was the edge of the city, so there were not many people around. The 5 people on the boat were covering their bodies with cloaks, looking very shady. Finally, they got closer to the land, but unexpectedly, 2 guards who were on patrol noticed them. "Hey, you guys!" The deep voice of one of the guards started the small group as they looked at the guards with a frown. Both of the guards were 7 feet tall, had blonde hair with a heavy body. They were standing proudly with their eyes suspiciously looking at the boat. "Why are you entering through the back gate? Show your identification," one of the guards stepped forward and asked. He was sure they were up to something, but he needed enough proof. One of the 5 mumbled to them, "We have already shown our identifications in the Heaven's Gate." The guard frowned, hearing him. "Then show them again. It doesn't hurt, does it?" Hearing him, the 5 slowly exchanged glances. Still, like obedient dogs, they slowly slid their hands under their robes, taking out cards. "This is the card given out in the summit of the West, the only legal road to Skypiean. The pirates and criminals obviously can't get them. Well, at least the ones who don't pay for it." The guard accepted their cards and nodded. 4 shipwrights and a bartender. I see nothing suspicious. And although entering the city from the back gate is not a crime, your attire makes you look auspicious. The guard looked at the faces of the people as he asked, "Are you guys here to look for jobs?" The man with a long, square nose shook his head. "We shipwrights are simply here to accept a commission, but this guy is looking for a job," he said, pointing at the burly man, dressed like a bartender under the robes. "We met him on our way and decided to give him a ride, that's all." The guard nodded. "Everything's good then, you can go inside. Next time, make sure to wear something better, got it?" The suspects nodded as the guards then turned around and left the spot. Among the travelers, a man with a pigeon on his shoulder stared at the guards' backs. Suspiciously, the pigeon started talking in a high-pitched voice. "The security is pretty tight, but it's nowhere on Whole Cake Island's level. It's pretty measly for an emperor, I would say." As the pigeon stopped talking, a snicker startled them. The laugh stopped as a soothing voice crept in their ears. "This place is more secure than even Impel Down, idiots. Because I am here." Before the 5 individuals clad in black could turn their heads around, they felt their brain going fuzzy and their nerves going numb, as if they had been shocked by electricity. Shortly, they lost consciousness. Zzz. The last thing they heard was the sound of passing electricity. Amon paused. "What happened after that wasn't really anything interesting. I took all 5 of them to the Grand Tesoro, to the Luck Girl, and put 10 people's luck on each of them. But something messed up happened next." "I am sorry, sir." Baccarat bowed deeply and apologized to me, but there wasn't a shred of empathy in her tone. Yes, she is one of the successful brainwashed, but she still can't process all types of emotions. Hearing her, I just stared at her coldly, almost wanting to snap her neck. In the end, I shook my head slowly with a sigh. Then I looked at the floor where 4 people were sitting. Rob Lucci, Kaku, and 2 randoms I don't know the names of. They were successfully brainwashed, so they were sitting quietly. The problem was the body lying down beside them, a dead body to be precise. Blueno, a member of CP9. Sigh, the dude died halfway through the procedure. That's sad, but not really. There are a million excuses. I looked at Rob Lucci with an indifferent look on my face. "Oi, did this guy have any devil fruit?" I didn't know if he had one. I am forgetting many small details from canon these days. It took a few seconds for Lucci to process my words, a backlash of brainwashing that needs a few days to remedy. He had the paramecia, Dordor fruit. Immediately, I was overcome with joy. I grinned and looked at Baccarat. "Look after them. I will be back in 26 seconds. Zzz. I entered lightning speed and teleported kilometers away, going to the upper yard that was thousands of kilometers from here. I invaded the forest, went in a specific direction, picked up a broccoli, and hopped back here in the ships. All this took 26 exact seconds as I was again standing in front of Baccarat. While Baccarat stood there silently, I quietly put the fruit close to the dead man's body. This is a blessing in disguise. I was hoping to get a storage type of fruit for a while now, and I am finally getting it. Yes, this is arguably the best storage type of fruit. When created a door in the air, the door leads to a pocket dimension. A pocket that is just our normal Earth, but vacant of any life, meaning unlimited space. There is no other fruit better than this as a storage type. Other than that, it has pretty good other uses too. The problem is, even though I myself need this fruit, I can't eat it because of no me. Yet I can't let any other person eat it since it would ruin the point. Then should I pet a cat and make it eat this? That seems possible. A cat can always be with me. Or I can try that theory of mine. Well, it doesn't hurt. Enough being secretive, the theory is simple. Inanimate objects can't eat devil fruits because they lack a life, a soul. But since zoans contain a life within the fruit, even inanimate objects can eat them. Simple, right? Seems believable too. Now, what if an inanimate object who manifested a will, a life, eats paramecia devil fruit? If it does eat it, isn't that the same as a person eating it? Yes, that's right. What if Kitetsu I, a cursed blade with fighting will, eats this fruit? Nah, it won't work. I tried before. Well, this just means the life within the sword isn't strong enough. Now, there are two ways to make it strong. 1. Insert a soul in the sword using Big Mom's DF. Immediately, big no. I won't want another person's soul to be injected in the sword since it can harm me anytime. And about my own, I would never let Big Mom touch my soul. 2. Insert a shadow in the sword using Yona's fruit. This seems possible, and I don't mind using a part of my own shadow even. Normally, a shadow can't be inserted in an inanimate thing, but this sword is not inanimate anymore, so that's that. Anyway, it's just living its theory life, so I am not sure. I guess I will test it after I come back from the Drum Kingdom, I thought while eyeing the fruit that was starting to change under me. As for how I knew about the fruit without asking him before, it's because I have recently got my hands on a devil fruit encyclopedia. It's a pretty rare book, so I didn't have it on me before, but now I do. This has most of the fruits written on it. Granted how even the rare Yami no Mi was written in this book. I just shook my head as I then looked at Lucci. Funny how the alias that Robin gave me is similar to his name. Anyway. Rob Lucci, why did you come to Sky Island? I asked, knowing he won't be able to lie to me anymore. He answered, I was directly contacted by a world noble. He wants you dead since he is the father of the 3 world nobles who you humiliated. So you were here to kill me? I think the government knows you are not strong enough to fight an emperor, though. I pointed at the lack of judgment. He corrected me with a shake of his head. I am not the one. I was merely sent here to draw a map of Skypea and also check on the security of the whole island. Though not all of us, as Blueno was supposed to get a job in one of the bars here, he was going to be a spy. I nodded. That clears up many things. So that world noble plans to send assassins and bounty hunters after me? Doesn't even make my blood boil. I shook my head, finding it strange why this is happening so late. It's been around 3 months since I fucked with the elders and returned the 2 brothers. Yet, nobody came after me yet. Oh, by the way, the female noble is still here in the sky. I never clapped her cheeks, though. After all, she was done in by a horse. I don't want to touch her after that. Well, just because I don't want her doesn't mean nobody wants. The main attraction of the red light district is she. Yes, Skypiean even has a red light district. Although she is not that beautiful, the pirates from outside who come here legally still choose her, only to get a taste of the people they view as God. To be honest, I didn't think this would be such a hit idea. 5% of our economy comes from her alone. It was a pretty funny thing. Anyway, enough talk about that. I am not interested in what assassin or bounty hunter they sent. After all, there are no strong people who aren't pirates or marines in this world. Still, when that time comes, I would annihilate all of them. I then looked at Rob Lucci. All right, you have to go back. I recall your work in Water 7 as a shipwright these days. Go back and report that you barely managed to flee from a few guards in exchange for Blueno's life. This would give an impression that a mere guard of Skypia is strong enough to make CP9 flee. Rob Lucci nodded. I understand. I then teleported away after grabbing the door devil fruit. I should quickly go to the Drum Kingdom, then after coming back, I would test if I really can make my sword eat the fruit. General Pav. Meanwhile, on Skypiea's shore, Wiper's fleet was preparing to leave. The ships were long and big, stretching as far as a 3-story building. They were battleships made from the scratches of marine military ships, so they were sturdy and durable. Among the 10 ships, Wiper chose the first, as he started to walk the stairs connecting to the deck. While he stepped inside the ship, a girl's voice flowed in her ears. Oi, Wiper, don't die! But if you feel like you are dying, just give me a missed call. I will go and save you. Wiper's veins popped up as he looked at the crowd below, the source of the voice. Seeing Rocky, the irritation in his eyes grew larger. Shut up! I am gonna win! Saying this, Wiper stomped on the ship as his body trembled. My gut feeling is telling me this would be a hard battle. Wiper's gut feeling was more solid than Amon's. 2 days have passed. Whoosh! Amon was flapping his wings and flying in the sky at an astonishing speed beside some seagulls. He was flying 3 kilometers above sea level, mostly sliding and rarely flapping his wings. His hair was fluttering in the wind, caressing his face as he had his eyes focused in front of him. My wings would get rusty if I don't use them at all. Amon muttered against the aggressive wind while his eagle-like eyes were looking kilometers in front of him. I can see Drum Island far from here. Those 6 peaks are pretty eye-catching. While his sight returned to normal, a sudden outburst happened to his speed as he leapt forward, mumbling, It's pretty annoying traveling so slowly. I guess being too fast messes with my sense of speed a lot. The next second, Amon's body gleamed and he disappeared from the naked eye, moving towards the drum castle at his top speed. Zzz. He left a trail of lightning behind, finally reaching the drum castle. Meanwhile, in the North Blue, Germa 66 was in a state of uproar. Vinsmoke Judge was sitting on the chair in the middle of a meeting table, with all of his children sitting around the other chairs. He had a frown on his face as he was looking at the letter in his hand. Reading the letter, he started sweating, rendering the others to grunt. Father, just what is written in that letter to change your expression so significantly? Yonji, the green-haired prince, demanded an answer. Judge raised his head and glanced at each of his masterpiece's faces. He stuttered, but still managed to reply, It's a declaration of war, coming from the Sky Emperor. Immediately, the expression of his children changed relatively as they almost lost their cool. But being perfect, unable to feel much emotion, they regained their composure soon. That's an unexpected disaster. Reiju, the Germa princess commented. She continued. From our speculation, the lightning dragon who fought Kaido is that guy. Just from the fact that he survived proves he is strong enough to back up his title of emperor. A soft sigh left her plump lips. Sigh, I don't think it would be a good ending for us if we fight him. Yes, Germa is a place with high-end technology and supercomputers. With the help of an informant close to the fight who captured video footage, they easily calculated the identity of that dragon made of lightning. Of course, they didn't reveal it to anyone, yet. Judge sighed. I believe there is a mole in our soldiers who leaked this information to him, or I don't see why he would directly declare war on us. Just when we were planning to sell him off to Kaido, Judge sighed again. He planned to form a good relationship with the beast's pirates using this opportunity, but this was disastrous. It was when Vinsmoke Niji commented, "Why are you acting like this? I am sure we can take on him if we team up." "Shut it, Niji." The oldest brother, Ichiji, interrupted. "We are no match for an emperor. Know your limits." Niji frowned but stayed silent. He overlooked it, but Ichiji isn't wrong. Reiju ignored her brothers and suggested, "Then, father, if our end is inevitable, why not reveal the news?" "I have thought of it, and was thinking of doing it since we don't see any way out. But after reading the letter completely, I changed my mind," Judge said with a small smirk. "The Sky Emperor underestimates us. He is not coming himself, but sending Fire Fist Wiper." Hearing him, the prince and princess blinked at their face, lost a lot of worries. If it's not that monster, then things would be fine, they thought. Meanwhile, Niji groaned. "No, that's not important. What is important is, he has the audacity to send a letter even when he is sending a minion. It's like he is warning us." Judge shot him a glance. "Calm down. Think of it as an opportunity. After defeating Wiper, we can use him as a negotiation chip." Niji's eyes twitched as he smirked shortly after. "Not a bad idea. You are right, I should calm down." The other brother added, "That way he would be on the edge, having both his secret and subordinate on our hold. He will dance in our palm." Judge chuckled hearing him as he leaned back on his chair. Indeed, this is what he gets for underestimating us. Underestimating them. No, Amon simply wanted Wiper to face a hard time. If he attacked them out of the blue, Amon didn't see any way for them to win. What's the fun in that? Other than that, when the Germa 66 were assuming that Amon declared war knowing that they knew his secret, in reality, Amon was completely ignorant this time. He had no way of knowing someone was recording the fight, and even if he did, considering the fight was happening kilometers above the sea and normal cameras won't even get a glimpse of them, he didn't give it much thought. However, he never thought that there would be a spy of Germa around, Germa who possesses cameras that can match Seraph's eyes. Now, when Amon was ignorant, if they really did sell him to Kaido, it would have been disastrous. Luckily, Wiper was there to save the day. Or is he? In the Sea of North Blue, Wiper was in his ship. He was training vigorously, sparring against 10 soldiers to be precise. The soldiers were wearing a crimson outfit, fitting to be under Fire Fist. All of the soldiers took a deep breath and rushed towards Wiper, their fist targeting different parts of his body, such as head, soldier, thigh, and neck. Wiper sidestepped and dodged the attack of one of his opponents. "Rah!" He then launched his fist forward with a cry and struck his opponent's chest, sending him flying, crashing inside the ship. Immediately, the other soldiers rushed towards him to catch him off guard, but fire surrounded Wiper's body as he mumbled, "Ah!" The soldiers screamed as they backed off because of the sudden but immense heat. Only one woman rushed towards him regardless of the fire. She yelled as the air froze, forming swords, spears, needles, and daggers in the air that went towards Wiper's body at an astonishing speed. This technique allows her to freeze the air and then form different stuff out of it. She can then control those creations to do as she wants. Wiper glanced at them as he flicked his wrist, creating a cloak of fire covering the air, as all the ice projectiles melted mid-air. The woman again prepared to rush forward, but Wiper raised his hand. Wiper then spun his spear and knocked the floor with the spear's end. "That's enough for now. We should already be close to Germa 66. We need to rest before reaching there." He looked at the brown-haired woman who used the ice attacks. "Tsumi, what's up with those pathetic attacks of yours? They melted even before I used my full heat." Tsumi, the priestess who came with Wiper, giggled. "Well, it's not because my ice is not cold enough, it's just your fire has become too hot after all these years of training. I got my fruit only a few months ago. I am not at my peak yet." Wiper scoffed. "Not that you would ever be able to match me regardless." He then ordered, "Quickly, prepare lunch for everyone." We need to rest. It is also a part of training." With a shrug, she nodded and started to walk away. Wiper became lost in thought. At my peak? This is not my peak yet. Wiper's current limit is 1500 degrees C of heat, where his flames can momentarily become blue. Yet, that momentary boost is not enough in the long run. To truly match Amon, my base heat needs to be above 1500 degrees C, enough to make my Logia body made of blue flame. Then I should even surpass that magma Admiral Amon told me about. According to what Amon said to him when comparing the fire fruit to the magma fruit, the magma is hotter than fire at the initial stage. The key word is at the initial stage. When a person eats the fire fruit, his flames can't surpass the heat of 415 degrees. Amon tested it when Wiper first got it. But when a person eats the magma fruit, one immediately gets access to heat as much as 700 degrees C, the starting heat of magma. Or at least theoretically one should, since the beginning of fire was the lowest too. Well, it's like real life, really. The fire fruit's initial color is red, and red fire's top heat is around 400 degrees C, but magma's starting point is around 700 degrees C. This is how it is in this world, not much different from Amon's previous world. Amon had this thought when he discovered this. Considering the fact that a Kainu must have even awakened his fruit too, it's no wonder Ace was hurt by his heat since his fire was orange, around 590 1200 degrees C, while Akainu should have been around 1600 degrees C, if not more. So it's not that Oda messed up physics, it's just that he restricted the heat of fire by its color. So theoretically, when Wiper's flame becomes blue flame that starts after 1600 degrees C in this world, he can quite clearly surpass Akainu's heat. Of course, Wiper didn't know about this. He was just working hard, ignorantly, unknowingly, that he is just around the corner to surpass an admiral. Still, that doesn't necessarily mean he will get the chance to surpass Akainu, because in the end, this test of his surpassed the boundary of a test and was life-threatening for him. There weren't enough soldiers to help Wiper get into a 1v1 fight, so the only outcome would be a 1v5 battle between Wiper and the Germa royal family. And Germa's royal family can even suppress a Yonko commander. Blood was scattered all around, the whole cabin was riddled with the scent of human flesh. Amon was standing still with his hands down, blood dripping from the tip of his left palm. "Ugh, I dirtied my hands," Amon grunted with an annoyed face. He glanced at the dead body under his feet. It was Wapol, the idiotic king of Drum Kingdom. What a waste. Amon shook his head lightly. The first option was to ask Wapol to leave the kingdom respectfully, but he didn't recognize Amon, so he rather tried to attack him. Amon killed him out of annoyance, not that it mattered. Amon then looked around the room. There were other people around the room, royal guards lying all around. Amon ordered, looking at one of them, "Hey, take this body and throw it in the forest. The least we can do is feed the poor animals." The guard that was kneeling against a wall shuddered to hear this. Amon frowned. "Do you not hear me?" Immediately, the guard shot up with a gulp. Will you spare my life if I do as you say?" Amon smiled sweetly. It looked frightening because of the blood on his face. "Of course, I don't gain anything from killing you guys. You will live and serve a king that I will choose myself. Just don't think of anything too smart, all right?" After a short gulp, the guard nodded fiercely and shakily walked closer to Amon and the dead body. He picked the body up with all his strength and hastily walked away, leaving behind Amon and many other guards. Meanwhile, Amon felt a slight tingle on the bag on his side. He already brought a fruit that should be compatible with Munch fruit, Wapol's fruit, that he identified from the DF encyclopedia. It seems the fruit successfully reincarnated. I don't have anyone in mind who I can give this fruit to. Since it's more destructive than useful, since the user becomes so hungry that he starts eating even bricks and trees. Not really useful. Amon concluded and decided to stash this fruit for later. Maybe he can make a deal with someone with this. Who knows? He just shook his head then, next glancing at another guard. Oi! Where is Dr. Kureha's house? In the anime, she lived in this castle, but since Wapol is still here this time, she didn't get the chance to move here. The guard Amon asked pointed his shaky hands towards the east as Amon closed his eyes. He focused on his observation of Haki, as he could clearly everything see even with closed eyes. Then, as if a video game, he moved his vision towards the east as he located a small house. Got it, Amon mumbled in his mind as he opened his eyes. He looked at the guard again. I heard there is a dude named Dalton here? The guard nodded in fright. He is imprisoned. Take me to him, Amon ordered with his eyes gleaming. Dalton was the general of this kingdom. He used to serve the previous king, Wapol's father. But after the previous king's death, and when Wapol started to eat up the kingdom from inside, Dalton opposed him. In the end, he was defeated by Wapol and imprisoned in the jail underground of the Drum Castle. Today, Dalton was living his usual life, but something was amiss. He hasn't been given his breakfast yet. Sitting against the wall, Dalton was staring at the floor with a dazed look. So they finally decided to stop my food supply. He sighed and started to mourn over the previous king's death. He had no idea that a catastrophe happened in the castle. He didn't know the guards had no chance to give him the food. Just when he was about to release his third sigh, footsteps entered the prison as he looked ahead. Creak. The sound of the prison hall's gate opening entered his ears. He guessed it was time for breakfast, but he quickly canceled that possibility after hearing something more. Sir, he is here. Dalton heard the familiar voice of one of the guards as his interest grew to realize his stutter. Soon, two figures walked out of the corner and stood in front of Dalton's cell. It took him a while to make up the faces of the visitors because of the sudden light from the opened door. Gradually, Dalton's eyes grew as he looked at the tall man in front of him. He recognized him because this man used to work for the previous king as a bounty hunter before. Is that you, Mr. Lucifer? Dalton asked, barely uttering those words. Mr. Lucifer Amon grinned. That's me. Amon's plan was simple. To hire Kureha, he needs to make her feel grateful to him since she is the type of doctor who won't serve a single person. The best way to do that was to defeat Wapol and then let the news travel all around the kingdom. With the help of the guards, no more than a few hours would be needed for that to happen. Currently, Amon was standing on the edge of one of the tall rocks beside Dalton, who had eaten his food. Mr. Bounty Hunter, did you really kill King Wapol? He asked with a frown. Yes, Wapol was a bad man, but he was still the son of the man he vowed his loyalty to. His next line sounded a bit more agitative. Did someone hire you to do this? Amon shook his head and slid his hands into his pocket, taking out a newspaper. He handed it to Dalton. Read that. Dalton accepted it out of intuition as his eyes grew reading the headline. It was an old newspaper talking about the fifth emperor. You probably didn't know this since you were imprisoned, but I am not a mere bounty hunter anymore, Amon said with an indifferent look, his eyes locked at the horizon. Anyway, what I am trying to say is, forget about Wapol. He was not the guy you vowed loyalty to. Besides, he was a terrible king. Reading the newspaper with shaky hands, Dalton understood there was nothing he could do to Amon even if he wanted. So to please his morals, he accepted his excuse. He was a terrible king indeed. It's not a bad thing that he was killed. Reading his thoughts, Amon praised himself in his mind and chuckled, turning around. So, now that the king is dead, I have a better candidate for the throne. And no, it's not the current prince, Amon said, looking at Dalton's eyes. I am sure you know who I am talking about. Dalton took a few seconds to understand what he meant as his eyes grew large. You want me to be a king? But I am... Amon interrupted him. I am sure you are good for it. When I was a bounty hunter and worked for the previous king, you left a good impression on me. Amon patted his shoulders. I trust you. Though he did say all those sugary lines, in truth, he just wanted him to be a king since he became the king in canon. Amon was too lazy to look for someone else. In exchange, this area would be my territory. No pirate crew would dare attack this place. Rest assured. Dalton stared at his face for a few seconds before he made a resolved look. I will not disappoint you. You are right. This country needs a better king. Amon laughed. Indeed. It took a few hours for the news to get around the whole kingdom. Now, most people of the island were gathered around one of the towns with Dalton standing above a platform. Everyone, as you have heard, the heinous ruler Wapol has been killed. Finally, God has turned his eyes towards us. He is giving us the chance to redeem ourselves, to stand up on our own again. We will... While Dalton started to sprout motivational lines, Amon started to look around the crowd. After minutes of searching, he finally found the old woman, Kureha. So she has come here to see who the new king was too, huh? Amon thought while chewing gum. So I have volunteered myself to become the next king. What do you say, everyone? Dalton announced. And after a short silence, everyone cheered his name in unison. Dalton had a good reputation with the citizens, so they didn't mind seeing him as the king. While they cheered, though, Kureha just turned around and walked away, going towards her house. Amon stared at her back as she left the crowd. Kureha Pov. I walked far from the crowd towards my sleigh. I was about to step on top of the vehicle as someone called from behind. Wait! With a frown, I sighed. What the hell now? Today is not my work day. I would refuse if he wants medical help. Deciding this, I turned around, but the unfamiliar face puzzled me. I am the only doctor who civilians can see, so I know most of the people on this island, and I was certain he is not from here. It was a young man who looked like he was in his 20s. Shoulder-length long hair, crimson eyes, and a black jacket. He had a handsome but cute face, too, though that's not important now. I asked, "What is it, brat? Today is not work day, so I won't be able to help." Still thinking he was just a traveler, I answered him, hoping he would not bother me again. However, his next words caused me to widen my eyes. I am no brat. I am an emperor of the sea, the 5th emperor. I am here to ask you to work for me, Dr. Kureha, the young man said with an amicable smile on his face. I frowned. The 5th emperor? Now that I think about it, he does look like that kid. I recognized him since he is pretty famous around this time. He wants me to work for him? It was a pretty interesting offer. To be honest, I was having double thoughts if I should reject him or not. Sigh to think my old bones still looks for adventure. I just shook my head. I am not sure where he got the news of me since I am not really that famous of a doctor, but this makes me feel good. Yet, sorry kid, I, as a doctor, can't restrict myself to serve only one person. My morals won't allow that, I said truthfully, keeping a respectable tone. The emperors are quite easily angered, I heard. The young man stayed silent for a while before he shook his head. I am not offering you to become my exclusive doctor. You can obviously do your job as a doctor with others beside me. My kingdom has quite the population. You are free to help anyone you want there. I was a little surprised. I didn't think the offer would be this generous. My only problem with working under someone is they would force me to help any other person besides him. To be honest, this was not a bad proposal. My ego wants me to join an emperor's army. It would be fun. But that's a good proposal, but it's sudden for me to decide it. I have to reject him. I still have one job left to do, to make cherry blossom bloom on this island. But rather than outright reject him, I will just reject him tomorrow." As I said this, the young man nodded. "It's fine. Take your time. I also have some time to do. Dalton asked me for a favor. He said it would be nice if this cold weather was gone." He grinned. "And I am good at changing weather, you see." "What?" I was shocked and somewhat hopeful. General Pov. Meanwhile, Wiper's group had reached the Germa kingdom. It was a few kilometers large and was floating in the sea. The 10 ships had the kingdom surrounded as Wiper stood at the edge of one of the ships. Uruj was standing beside Wiper, too. Tsumi and Uruj were the only Birkins who came to this expedition, and they were strong. The cannon Uruj had the power to take down Snack, one of the Sweet commanders. The current Uruj was stronger because of Amon's influence. He can even match Wiper's strength after stocking up enough karma. Uruj had one job: to do crowd control. Germa 66 has around 10,000 soldiers overall. Although the soldiers were weaker than God's army, with their weapons, they could match them. So to suppress them, a tank like Uruj is needed. Wiper was the main power of this mission. He plans to take on the royal family on his own. He wants to test himself. If I die, it's because of my own failure, Wiper thought as he clenched his black spear. This spear is made with a special material that Amon found in space. It can bear the heat around 40,000 degrees C for a few hours before melting. It would be his main weapon for this expedition. Whoosh! As Wiper was thinking to himself, a red blur appeared in the air above his head. Wiper instinctively raised his hand as the red blur, Ichiji, kicked his face. Bam! Wiper blocked it as a grin appeared on his face. The other party, Ichiji, was also grinning. Oi, Fire Fist, is that all you got? Wiper didn't respond as he flipped his spear and jabbed towards Ichiji. Talk for yourself, chilly bastard! Ichiji swiftly dodged the spear by bending his waist, but Wiper then raised his other arm, his fist, towards his face. Fwa! Before Ichiji could react, fire surrounded Wiper's fist as he swung it towards his chest, hitting him and throwing meters in the air. Fire Fist!